In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the secret hack for you to use on your social media to get instant downloads on your podcast episode when you go to promote it. Okay, this is what you're going to learn in this video. How and the psychology behind why content honey traps work, and the 4 content honey trap tools that high ticket coaches and consultants like you can use for your podcast today. Stick around to find out exactly how I use content honey traps and these strategies to get instant downloads on my podcast as soon as I promote it on social media. If you are a high ticket coach or consultant looking for the best advice on how to monetize your podcast with consistent high ticket clients, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. My name is Deidre Shen. I am the CEO and co-founder of Capture and the Podcast to Profit Accelerator. I have been working with high ticket coaches and consultants who cumulatively have banked over $1.6 million in sales through podcasting. I myself have done over 200K. I did over 200K in my first year podcasting because I stumbled upon this little known secret. Now, in the last video, we covered the 4 content honey trap models based on the stories of your podcast. You'll use those if your podcasts have a compelling story that you want to use to hook your audience in to listen to your podcast. In this video, we are going to cover the 4 content honey trap tool models based on tips. This is when you have some amazing tips, some great value that you want to use to hook your audience in to listen to your podcast. So with that said, let's get straight into exactly what those 4 tips-based content honey trap models are so that you can start using these to successfully promote your podcast on social media and get those instant downloads. So let's get into these other 4 mental models of the content honey traps.
Yes.
And this one is based on tips or how-to.
Yes.
So Bona, why don't you run us through them?
Okay, I love these because sometimes I do feel like when we're talking about content honey traps and the story-based content honey trap tools, that can create a lot of pressure for people to think, oh gosh, I don't have any cliffhanger stories or something crazy that happened that to really hook people. So I love these because what these do is they help you create just as compelling content honey traps for your front-end funnel, but featuring the main thing that we all do as coaches, which is our unique expertise. So what it does is this approach will really kind of help you take that and help you resist the urge to give away that value.
Yes.
To say,
because we can't help it, right?
Yeah, because you're a coach because you want to serve your audience.
Exactly.
So we totally get that. So that's why I think the role that Capture will play is to save you from yourself. And not to say that you can't share these tips as value, but the main thing is sequencing, right? So before or when your podcast episode drops, to your point, how can you tease them the value that they're going to get on the episode so that they listen? And you have the best possible way to deliver those tips with your story, with your context, rather than just as an Instagram caption that they can just save, as you said, and try to implement. You can always share that as content later, but this is really going to help you in that moment to get maximum listens and maximum activation in terms of becoming part of your list. So there are 4 tips-based content story, content honey trap tools. So the first one is what we call the Rebel. So I really like this one because basically it's based off of the premise where you really draw your audience in by sort of alluding to the fact that you have maybe a different opinion on what it is that you're teaching. So opinion, I should say educated opinion, of course. So this is all about busting myths that are prevalent in your industry, right? So when it comes to us, for example, podcasting is still a relatively newish sort of particular niche. And you've got a very specific way that that you teach business owners who podcast to actually the role that the podcast plays in their business, right? So you can hear about all of that obviously in the podcast. So I'm not going to go into that too much, but the Rebel will really help you say, you know what, it's not about just publishing every single day. What it's not about, what getting, using your podcast to get leads is not about is trying to land a celebrity to come on your podcast, right? But what it is about is I'm going to go into in my episode.
Yes.
And everyone's like, oh, I wonder what it is. I've been publishing every day. I've been trying to get a celebrity onto my podcast. So what is the secret?
Yeah.
And that's someone may not say that out loud, but that's the thought that they have, right? So this is not about, it's about creating a dramatic enough reaction for that person to then just go, you know what, I need to listen to this now. Oh, okay, it's a quick 15 minutes, let me listen to it while I'm, walking to the supermarket. So that is the kind of reaction that you want. And that's why I love the Rebel for it, because you kind of just allude to what it's not, and then people want to know what it is.
Yes.
Even if it's just to say, I don't agree with you. Right? So definitely leverage that. The second one is called what we call the jaw dropper. So the jaw dropper is all about how can you tease a secret that you've delved into in the podcast. So this is useful for if it's a certain process, that you talk about, or a certain mini methodology that you teach. If it just needs a little bit of context that you need to go to. You just want to entice your listener enough to really kind of listen to that, right? So you can allude to the thing that it is without giving it away. So the jaw dropper, for example, you've got you're a framework queen.
I just love frameworks.
I'm just trying to think how many I think the only thing you have more of than frameworks is domains.
I do have a lot of domains. Also because I think I have a domain for each framework that I created.
Oh, very
plus
true.
More. Yeah.
I was going to say maybe multiple domains per framework.
Yeah.
And the other thing you have a lot of is podcasts. So you're also competing now. But yeah, a lot of frameworks, a lot of podcasts, and a lot of domains. But really the great thing about that though is each framework could probably split into multiple jaw droppers because they're just these little content honey traps, They're all these different processes. The great thing about being a coach and a consultant is that you have a certain way of doing things. And you may not even, for example, if you're a health coach, there might be a certain way that you teach meal prep. So it doesn't even have to be anything fancy. So that's why the jaw dropper is really great, because you're just, again, alluding to the secret, like you're really kind of saying, this is the thing that I go into, really have to listen, and then you link it to the outcome.
Yes, I was about to say, it's really about the result, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And people start to say, okay, that is definitely the result that I want. I feel like I've tried all of these things, but what is this particular thing? So, it doesn't have to be anything cool or fancy, but if it is, and you've got an awesome name for it, and it's
like content honey traps.
Exactly, where the name itself is like, what is that, right? And then a lot of, I think we've seen coaches in that space, they do name their methodologies, they do name their frameworks, they have a certain, I guess, almost like mini community around these things. Then if you have something like that, which is awesome if you do, then you really, really want to make the most of it and use what we call the Marvel as the content honey trap tool. So the Marvel is very similar to the jaw dropper, but it's really helpful to use when, as we just said, you have a very specific name. So I did allude to content honey traps in the jaw dropper because there are things that you do, in content honey trapping that you can use that tool for, but really it's the Marvel, because everyone's like, what is a content honey trap?
Yes.
Immediately I want it, whatever it is. I want to be in it, I want to set it, I want to, I just have this physical reaction to it.
Yes.
So the Marvel is amazing for that. So if you are a coach or consultant, again, that's invested your brain power and experience in creating this, then this will do something very similar where you just link it. Again, you talk about the end result that your client wants, your listener is craving. And then you say, well, this is going to be the thing that I talk about, this cool content honey trap. For us, our listeners want to obviously they're not just looking to monetize their podcast. That's not how they're thinking about it. They're thinking about, this is the lead generation machine, which not only helps me hone my voice and create long form content, but it's going to connect me to my most ideal person. And they're just going to jump on a call with me, and they're already going to feel like they know me, and the sale is not even going to feel like a sale. I'm going to find my people, and that is kind of what they're looking for, right? And we know that content honey traps is the way to get there. So listen to this episode on what content honey traps are and how you can start using it straight away. And I'm like, I'm there. Yes, I want to have a really easy sales conversation that doesn't feel like a sales conversation, right? So the Marvel's amazing for that.
Yeah. So definitely, just to summarize because we have one more to go through, but it's like there's a lot here. So the first one was all about the Rebel. Now that is what the thing that you're talking about is not. Okay, so that's really how you think about it. What is it not? The second one we spoke about was the jaw dropper, which is, okay, your client wants this end result. how can you tease the fact that they can get this end result with this secret that you're going to unveil in the episode?
Yes.
The third one is the marvel, which is similar to the jaw dropper. So again, you're teasing that end result that your client wants. But this time, how you're going to help them is through this really cool named framework.
Very important.
Very important, that they're going to be like, I need to know what, I don't know, ninja commerce is, for example. I don't know, I just made that up. I'm really terrible at this. I come up with a framework, you guys, not so much the names.
Oh no, you're a very good namer.
Yeah,
you're a very good
I
namer,
do.
actually.
Yeah. I just need some. I need to be in the shower to, really have that downtime to think about.
You maybe
good
need the
names.
framework to
Yeah, and I do need the framework. But yeah, if you have a cool name for your framework, that's when you use the marvel.
Yes.
All right. So that's 3. Now we're on the 4th.
On the 4th one is called, this is our newest edition actually.
Ooh,
This is one that we came up with more recently. We're like, there is something missing here, and that is really speaking to the pain point of our ideal customer. So this 4th content honey trap tool is called the boxer, and really, whilst the others really kind of talk to the end aspiration and that's very, very powerful, what the boxer can be really helpful for, if you're like, you actually just want to agitate the pain points that they're currently feeling.
Yeah.
You still want to link it obviously to the end result, because we're all about, you have to paint the vision, but this is really about how can you use those pain points that that they're feeling right now to really compel them, right? To really say, if, like we were talking about, definitely our listeners are really committed to podcasting, but they're really starting to feel that energy drain. They're really starting to feel like, is this really worth it? But they're afraid to stop because they might be 2 steps away from gold, right?
Yes.
They're like, it's all about consistency, it's about discipline and to keep showing up. But they're starting to really doubt themselves. So that's a very unique pain point that people who don't podcast, or business owners who don't do this on top of everything else, can't really relate to be honest. So it's really about being very, very specific, and then of course hinting at the solution for that being in your episode. Again, you're not giving them away to say, hey, if you're feeling this, do this, goodbye.
Yes.
You're saying, I feel it. That's really, and it's so as specific as possible. So really the tool will help you get to that. And then it's saying, then teasing the solution. And people are like, that's like, instead of recording today, I'm going to listen to this thing.
Yes.
And see if maybe there's a solution for me, because I am tired of doing that.
Yes.
So that's why we thought we've got to round this out with kind of a pain point led content honey trap tool. So that is the boxer.
Yes, amazing, you guys. Do you see that? So those are 4 mental models that we use, and we've embedded into Capture, which is a software that can help you actually create these content honey trap captions super quickly, super easily, like a bank of them that you can pick and choose, you can edit, and then you use on your social media to instantly triple your downloads as soon as you promote it.
Let me know in the comments if you are currently using any of these content honey trap mental models. If you want to hear the full story behind the frustration that we used to feel about trying to promote our podcast episode on social media and just not getting results, and then how we actually started doubling, then tripling our downloads once we started using content honey traps, then listen to episode 2 of the Grow My Podcast show. I'll leave the link below. And if you want to learn the full strategy behind using your podcast to produce multiple high ticket clients each month without needing a large following or spending any money on ads, then sign up for my on-demand audio podcast. So that link is below as well. Yeah, if you missed out on my previous video going through the 4 stories-based content honey trap models, mental models, so that you can start turning your podcast into a 6-figure podcast.